Hey guys, Tiny Maths here. We all know exactly why we're all here. So, let's get straight to business. Let's take two numbers, 4 and 5. The problem? Find the lowest or least common multiple of these two numbers. How do we do this? Here are the simple steps. Step 1. List the first few multiples of each number. And step 2. Look for multiples that appear on both lists. I find it better to list the multiples of the largest number first, and then work down to smaller numbers. So we'll start with 5 and list its first few multiples. The multiples of 5 are actually just the numbers that make up the 5 times table, which I'm assuming you're well aware of. So we have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. You can decide how many of these multiples you want to write, because there is no exact number required. Try not to make the lists too long though, because the longer you make the lists, the more likely you are to make a mistake. Next, using the 4 times table, we get the multiples of 4 as 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36, 40. And now we simply look for multiples that appear in both lists. By the way, if you can't find any, you might need to extend both lists until you find one. Notice that near the end of both lists, 40 appears, but earlier on in both lists, 20 appears. These are called common multiples. They are multiples common to both 4 and 5. But we're looking for the lowest common multiple, which is the smallest numbers that you can find on both lists. In this case, that's the number 20. So the lowest common multiple of 4 and 5 is 20. And that's our answer. If you stick around until the end, I've linked to another video which shows you how to use this method to add fractions with different denominators. So you can see exactly why this process is so useful. Let's try 3 numbers now, 2, 4 and 5. What's the lowest common multiple of these 3 numbers? Well, let's go to step 1 and list a few multiples of each number. The multiples of 5 are 5, 10, 15, 20 and 25. Here are the multiples of 4, and here are the multiples of 2. Which numbers appear on all 3 lists? Well, for the multiples we've written so far, there's only one, and it happens to be the number 20, which we had before. Now, you can search all day, but you won't find a number smaller than 20 that appears on all 3 lists. 20, which is a multiple of 2, 4 and 5, is our lowest common multiple. And if you're still searching for a number lower than 20, why don't you smash the subscribe button and like the video while you do so? You won't find a common multiple lower than 20, but hitting the like button and subscribing will help the algorithm show Tiny Maths videos to a wider audience. That way we can help many more people. So, finding the lowest common multiple of 2 or 3 numbers is easy enough, right? Well, now I'm going to make things a little tougher. Let's try 3 different numbers. This time we'll use 24, 15 and 9. Let's find the lowest common multiple of these 3 numbers. So we begin with step 1 by listing multiples of the largest number 24, multiples of 15 and multiples of 9. Now can you spot the multiples appearing on all 3 lists? Well, I hope not, because there aren't any yet. So you have to keep adding more multiples to each list. Now I don't know about you, but I'm not very good with my 24 times tables or my 9 times tables, especially when the multiples start getting really high. If you're not good at very high multiples and you have to keep adding multiples to these lists, it might not end very well. In fact, do you know how long your list of multiples would need to be to reach the lowest common multiple of these 3 numbers? Well, the lowest common multiple of 24, 9 and 15 is 360. Your list of multiples of 24 would have to have 15 numbers in it to reach 360. Your list of multiples of 15 would contain 24 numbers, and your list of numbers of 9 would have to have 40 numbers in it. All in all, you would end up having to write about 80 numbers in order for the first common multiple to show up in all three lists. Do you even have time for that? And what if you make minor mistakes when writing that big list of numbers? You might completely miss the lowest common multiple. Luckily for us, there's another method that can make finding the lowest common multiple of these three awkward numbers much easier. Here's the method. In the first step, we write each number as a product of prime factors, and in the second step, we multiply the prime factors together to find the lowest common multiple. In this method, we rewrite all of our numbers 24, 15 and 9 as products of prime numbers. All of the factors are prime numbers. If you don't know how to do this, you'll be stuck with the first method, and you've seen how that can go wrong. So it's important that you learn how to write numbers as a product of prime factors, so you can use this method for finding the lowest common multiple with more awkward numbers. In step 1, we write each number as a product of prime numbers, or a product of prime factors. So 24 can be written as 2 times 2 times 2 times 3, 15 can be written as 3 times 5, and 9 can be written as 3 times 3. Now I put all the prime numbers in a table. I make a table with 3 rows, one for each of our main numbers. Then I start putting the prime factors for each number in the columns associated with that number, one factor per column, but I only allow matching numbers in each column. So I'll start with the factors of 24. There are 3 2s and 1 3. Now we'll do the factors of 9. There are no 2s, so we can't put anything in the first 3 columns, since we have no match. But 9 has 2 3s for factors, so we can use the next 2 columns, one which makes a match and the other which has no number in it yet. Then finally, the factors of 15 are 3 and 5. Again, we can't use the 2 columns, but we have 2 available 3 columns. So we can put the 3, which is a factor of 15, in one of these columns with 3s, and since we can't use any columns with 2s or 3s for the prime number 5, we can use another column. So our table is now ready for calculation. We calculate the lowest common multiple by multiplying all of the columns together. First column times second column times third column, etc. If a prime number appears more than once in the same column, we ignore the duplicates and just use the number once. So multiplying the columns gives 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 5, which equals 360, and that's the lowest common multiple of 24, 15 and 9, as we saw when we had all of the numbers written out. So that's how you find the lowest common multiples of 2 or 3 numbers. Actually, you can use it for any amount of numbers by using exactly the same 2 processes. The first method, by listing the multiples of all the numbers and looking for the lowest common multiple, or the second method, by writing all of the numbers as products of prime factors and then multiplying the factors together to find the lowest common multiple. Which method is best? Well, I would say that the prime factors method is better for numbers, say, approaching 10 or larger. If you're dealing with smaller numbers, you're probably safe to use the first method of listing all the multiples, but overall I think it's better that you use the prime factors method. So learn your prime numbers and learn how to write numbers as prime factors. So now you know how to find the lowest common multiple. Here's a link to my video showing how you actually use the process for solving sums involving fractions with different denominators. Well, that's it for now. Happy solving. Until the next video.